Hello and welcome to Allies in Innovation. Today we are talking about cyber and we are talking about quantum. We've done it before, but we're doing we're going to revisit it just a little bit to see where has things been going and where are they going right now. Together with me in the studio, I have once again Samant Khajuria. Welcome to you.
Thank you.
And you are, correct me if I'm wrong, the Vice President of Quantum and Cyber here at Terma. So I think you're the right person to talk to about this, what's happening. Myself, I'm Mikkel Svold, and I'll be your host. And I think we should just get right into it, Samant, because we've actually visited cybersecurity a few times in this podcast. So the first time was in 2022, where we talked military cyber with a bunch of people from Lockheed Martin, which was really exciting. And then we talked also in February this year about digital warfare, cyber, and quantum. So to you, the listeners out there, if you haven't heard those, I recommend you go back and revisit those. So visit those before you actually continue this episode, because this will be some kind of a build on that. I think, Samant, looking back at the past, nearly a year, I know that things don't necessarily move very fast, but again, they do move some kind of fast. At least we see a lot of AI development, and I'm figuring that kind of push for progress is something that you see across the board when we talk cyber. What's happened since we talked last time, if anything?
Thank you, Mikkel, for the question. I think lots have happened, and probably that's why we are very busy. Today, whatever we are talking in terms of defense, or as a matter of fact, in critical infrastructure, we are seeing cyber as a fundamental thing that has been asked by our customers to whom we are providing the products and services. What does that mean? Whether it is making sure any kind of threats towards defense and critical infrastructure, how can we mitigate those threats by applying state-of-the-art cyber solutions on that. In addition to that, we also see quite a lot in getting the systems certified from a cyber perspective. So Denmark has also started to use NATO standards that we are looking into, that whatever Denmark is acquiring, how the NATO standards are applied. And the reason for that is also from the perspective of interpretability. So when we are talking today's systems, it's not standalone systems, it's systems of systems. So systems need to talk to each other from different countries. By applying same standards, it's become a lot more easier from an interpretability perspective to share the information that flows.
Do you see a general shift in the attitude towards cyber? I remember that we talked about seeing cyber mostly as an add-on to the actual function you want to have. Do you see a shift happening right now? Because we see a global shift in the threats. We see, geopolitics are shifting all the time.
And as in the start of the podcast, you mentioned the first podcast we had with Lockheed Martin. And I think at that time, this is exactly what we discussed, because that was a time where cyber was always seen as an add-on thing. So something that to be implemented on top after the system has been done. But today, cyber is something that comes very much in the start. Whenever we have drawings of the architecture on the table is when we start talking about cyber and cyber requirements. And it's also to understand that cyber is not something that you come in, do, and go out, but it also something that supports the life cycle of the product or service that has been provided. So once the system has left us and lives in our customers' environment, how do we still make sure that it is cyber resilient? So there is quite a lot of shift that we see.
And what are we shifting towards? Now, if we zoom out a little bit, we've got AI, rocketing out there. We've got quantum kind of peeking around the corner. We don't really know when things are happening, but we are getting ready. we have other sorts of layered defense. We've got different kinds of infrastructure that needs new sorts of protection. Where are the major things that companies in the defense sector, but also in critical infrastructure, and I'm guessing also in larger corporations, because they typically take part in some kind of critical infrastructure, right? What should they be looking out for right now, you think?
From cyber perspective, I think everyone needs to be aware of what is the state of the art of the technologies that we are talking. The technologies that you mentioned, cyber, quantum, AI, and a bunch of others, these are emerging disruptive technologies. These technologies are developed or matured at a very fast pace as compared to what was anticipated. Mm-hmm. So today, AI has become part of our everyday life, whether we talk about using of LLM models for ChatGPT and all these, but also simple work, everyday work in our companies or at home where we use AI. How AI works, it's been trained on data. So is it trained on the right data? This is where this cyber AI gets intertwined in that sense. So cyber makes sure the integrity of this data that the models are being trained, that we are going to more or less agree with whatever the output of the AI model would be, is the right one. So that's where there's understanding the technology, how the technology can help the large organizations, defense, critical infrastructure, but also understand the threats of these technologies. So, for example, if AI being used in a wrong way, then it could be quite a big threat towards the organizations. If quantum computing is used to break the algorithms that today secure us, it is the threat to us. If quantum is being used by non-friendly nations to harm us, is also a threat that we need to look into. And same thing goes for cyber. For many years, we have talked about cyber as a defensive thing to protect and safeguard, but we also see today cyber as an offensive thing. So that what we see, the attacks that we see on critical infrastructures and so on, is one of those examples. So weighing the threats and the benefits of these emerging disruptive technologies.
Where would you put your focus? Where do you put your focus? I mean, you had a really large.
Yeah, I mean, it's very difficult to follow the pace. Because all these technologies are developing quite rapidly all across the globe by many different entities for many different interests. How do we cope up with this, or best cope up with this, is also through collaboration and partnerships. So having partners all across Europe, all across nations that we work with or we would like to work with, share information, share intelligence, learn from each other, and that helps us to be at the level where we would like to be.
Now, I want to dive in a little bit to the quantum threats that we see, specifically the threats that you can use quantum computing to break current encryptions. How would you prepare? Because you're not actually able to do it yet, but right now there's an offensive strategy: harvest now, decrypt later. We talked about that also in the last episode, I remember. But how would you prepare now to be ready for when that quantum day happens, for Q Day?
Yeah, Q Day. That's a good one. Harvest now and decrypt later is not something that is new. This has always been there. It's a cat and mouse. When we had age-old encryption solutions like DES, data encryption standard, when DES was broken, it came as triple DES. So then you don't encrypt one time, you encrypt 3 times. at the same time, there was a work going on to build an advanced encryption standard, which has been a standard for most of the encryption globally, from from finance to public sector to defense, for many years. And during this period, harvest nor decrypt later has always stayed. Now comes the new wave of it, where we see today's encryption solutions are what we have might be under threat for quantum computers being able to break it. What has happened? So quantum computing has gone from theoretical state to a practical state. So we are seeing quite a lot more maturity in quantum computing today, what we anticipated 5 years ago. So this means that we might see something coming faster than what we thought it will. That's one of the things. How can we best prepare? Start looking into post-quantum cryptography or quantum key distribution solutions. Today we are already using in a commercial world. We know that quantum key distribution or post-quantum cryptography in some way or form is being utilized. One of the examples is, as we talked, Google Chrome browser uses that today. So, and when we are building our security solutions, we should take the approach where we have a modular approach, so we can change our systems that secure us today with quantum-enabled solutions. What Terma is doing in this, we are working closely with the research organizations. We are working closely with universities. We are also partnering with at the European level with other companies looking into these solutions. How would it look like in the future, and how do we best prepare for this?
And now you've already been working on this for a couple of years, and what do you think has been the biggest challenges so far in implementing and shifting not just the mindset, but also in practice and in all practicality, the technology, the software? What challenges have been the biggest in the transition?
Yeah, there are magnitude of challenges because these are legacy systems. So we cannot simply replace things today. So what is out there today is something that need to be closely looked into. And we know that we cannot simply change all the legacy systems. So how can we best make the workarounds together what we have today and use these state-of-the-art technologies to secure them? Hardware-wise, software-wise, we have challenges on all the fronts that we are looking into. But also one thing that we should also think about, competence-wise. So the skill sets that are needed in order to do this is something what we see from the coming workforce, coming skill sets that we see in Denmark we are working on.
Do you have any examples of any of the challenges, concrete things? Have you ever tried, or have you stumbled into trying to implement a new encryption method, and then suddenly something didn't work and you had to go back and forth?
Yeah, I mean, it gets into bits and bytes by the end of the day. So by simply one-to-one replacement of something is not the way of working. There are many. That's why we move towards the standards. So what we see is, like, from the internet world, we use SSL, we have certificates and so on. Those are the standards that can be implemented. So updating and upgrading through those standards become a lot more easier. But with quantum key distribution or post-quantum crypto, we also have to see that how it can be replacing the classical ones or working alongside classical ones. So one of the big challenges, or one of the big things, has been how can the quantum-enabled solutions and the classical solutions can coexist.
And looking into that future, what is your roadmap right now what's your roadmap?
Of course, many things changes quite fast because of the maturity of the technology, what is happening around. Our roadmap is to build proof of concepts. Basically being practical at looking at the technology and how can be applied to our own products and services. How do we do that? We basically doing collaboration. We are funding some of the projects at the universities in Denmark and so on, having these quantum boxes to do quantum key exchange and so on. Today, the form factor of these boxes are big, so these are something for more data center-ish level. So we also see how the form factor changes of these kind of things, so this can be applied more widely today. Today, that's not something that is available. So, but we can see that in the coming 3 years, 4 years, that we will have that.
If you are in a company that didn't have as many resources to push towards cyber, but you still sit with critical infrastructure, or you sit with some form of critical component in the nation, how would you go about it? What would you do?
Come to us. Ask for help. But that's there. So Terma has definitely developed as a national integrator in Denmark. We have also have developed an ecosystem where we can help the companies and the organizations that are in defense and critical infrastructure. How can they go by these things? And we have quite a lot of experience in this field, and something that we can provide that experience to others.
I was wondering one thing, because one thing is preparing for all this and what you should do, what should be your next move in this preparation, and of course as you mentioned, the collaborative efforts is really the way to go, because otherwise you will just sit in your little own four-walled office, and then you won't really know what's going on. But I also can't but think, how realistic is it that we will see a large-scale quantum threat coming within the next 10 years? Is it one of those technologies that is always 10 years ahead? Or do you really think that we do need to make sure that we're ready?
So far, things have moved faster than what we thought things would be. Mm-hmm. If we follow the same trajectory, so 10 years is quite...
it's quite long.
Quite long, yeah, exactly. And we don't know what will happen in next 2 to 5 years, how the technology will mature. But there are also many different things. As we talked, like in quantum, we are also investigating on quantum sensing. Sensing is one of the parts where for better situational awareness, where quantum sensors can be used, gravitometers, magnetometers, and so on and so forth. The technology readiness level of these kind of capabilities is quite high. So we can see something coming in less than 5 years. Or some already exist at the level that is not, I would not say completely commercially, but not very far from that.
Yeah, and quantum sensing is basically nothing to do with quantum cyber threats.
No,
but it's a whole
lot of different things.
Yeah, but it's just another application of quantum technology.
Yes.
Yeah. If we meet again, if we talk again a year from now, what progress would you expect that the defense industry has made?
From defense industry, it's very important to have a clear strategy on some of these emerging disruptive technologies. It's also very, very important, and I know that defense is doing today quite lots of these things, especially in Denmark. We know that the defense is looking into a large digitization initiatives, what they're doing. but a clear strategy, a clear collaboration with industry and the partners that can provide those capabilities will help a lot. And we are in a different place where we were 5 years ago. So by the end of the day, I would say removing the red tape. Yeah.
Okay, I think that's a good closing remark. It's always nice to get things, being able to do things a little bit more smoothly and
jointly
and swiftly, and jointly, exactly. Samant Khajuria, thank you so much for participating, and to you out there listening, I hope you enjoyed this a little bit shorter episode, but I hope you got something out of it. And if you're not already looking into cybersecurity and quantum security and all within that domain, as Samant said, reach out to us at Terma, and we can always have the talk. I think if you have, if you have any questions, anything you want to us to talk about on the podcast, do reach out to us on podcast@terma.com, and that was podcast@terma.com, and we'll be happy to hear from you and see what we can do, see what we can talk about. And I think with that, all I have left to say is thank you so much for listening.